Hello everyone, welcome to another video. If this is your first time here, my name is Lucky. I hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be playing with these Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors. I've used them through high school and I kind of forgot about them, so I decided to bring them out again and remind myself of how they are. On my current watercolor palette I have Van Gogh watercolors and Daniel Smith, and it's actually been a while since I've used the Kuretake Gansai Tambi. I remember them being very saturated and very pigmented, so I'm excited to play with them again, I guess. Also, I haven't done watercolors in a very long time, so this is going to be a more experimental like painting. I think like just experimenting more and trying not to control the outcome. I'm simply layering colors and having fun, enjoying the process. From what I remember these watercolors to be, they're pretty much the same. I think they're pretty good for beginners and like students or even professional artists. I think they're very good. They bloom beautifully in the water. They're very pigmented. They're very easy to use. They also lift very nicely, and they're just a dream experience for me. I don't know. I stopped using them. I think that, you know, my tastes kind of differed because they tend to be very like fake colors. Like they're very pungent colors. And lately I've moved more into the earthy tones, so it really stopped making sense to me. So I've also changed palettes every like 4 months because I'm a hoarder. But overall these watercolors are beautiful. They're very pigmented. The color selection is just perfect, I think, and they really behave well in all sorts of techniques like glazes and blooming and wet on wet, or like dry on wet, wet on dry, I mean. But yeah, you can see with this green right now that it's a very like fakeish green to me. I prefer like a more muted green and a more like natural green, I guess. They work very, very well. I'm very happy that I brought them out again, and just happy that I got to do another video with using watercolors. I think sometimes watercolor videos tend to be a bit scary for me because you can have a nice sketch, but then you don't always know how it's going to come out, and so they tend to give me some anxiety when filming, I guess. I just get like more conscious of it. So, but this video I think went pretty well. I think the color, like, I think the final result was really nice, I'd say. I also have to say about this paper that I'm using. It's the Canva image. It's 200 grams, and I've used the Canva paper, Canson paper, sorry. I've used the Canson paper before, and I think it was like the mixed media or like wet media or something, and I think it was around 300 grams. I really enjoyed that paper. It was very smooth and easy to work with. It did have some patches where it felt a bit waxy and the color wouldn't soak in at all. Like it was like covered in wax, I don't know. But I really tend to enjoy more watercolor papers when they're smooth, like hot pressed. I do enjoy cold pressed, but I think sometimes the texture, like it really depends on the paper, because most of the papers that I've tested tend to grain a little bit and they start tearing up once you add water and you use your brushes on it. So yeah, I've used Canson paper before. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but I bought this one by mistake because I thought it was the same paper that I used back in the day. But it turns out that it's not. I didn't read. I only saw that it was 200 grams, and I assumed that it was good for watercolors, and I assumed it would be okay. But it turns out it's sketching paper, so you can see here in this close-up that the paper was starting to tear and crumble, and it really started to put me off the mood because I thought this was gonna turn to shit. But you know, I kept going, and actually once it dried, it kind of went away. I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't there anymore. Like, it wasn't grainy, and the more I added, the less grainy it would become. You can see right now that on her chin it's terrible. Like, it's really bad. And then I'm going to scrub on it so I can lift that pink that bled into the chin. And after it dried, it was fine. Like, between layers, once it dried, it was like actually fine, and there was no problem at all. So overall, I think it worked out fine. Maybe next time I'm going to do a full glaze of the page, just so it can soak up the water and let it dry. Like, you know, as a starting layer, so I don't have to run into this problem while I'm painting. But yeah, I also really enjoy the vibrancy of the colors. I think sometimes with watercolors, normally I really do enjoy it, like a soft pastel, like really soft colors. I don't like, you know what I mean, like very soft in general, like hazy. But I also like high contrast paintings. I think they are really beautiful. And sometimes the problem with watercolors is that you don't know, like, you add colors and they look good once you apply them, and the contrast looks good, but then once they dry, they fade a little bit, and that's normal. That's normal for all kinds of watercolors. You can see this color that I'm applying now. It's going to be much lighter once it dries, and that's fine. You just have to work in layers. But yeah, this was really experimental again. I didn't want to put the pressure on me to make a beautiful painting, because sometimes when you film your work, or if you post online, you have this subconscious pressure to make sure that the painting looks beautiful at the end, or that it's like you just put this unrealistic weight upon yourself that just tends to like ruin the whole thing. So I really tried my best to have fun and enjoy the process, because I used to be, before I got my iPad, I only did watercolors. That was the only thing. Like, sometimes I'd play around with gouache, but gouache was always like very tricky for me. So I really tended to like, I don't know, like watercolors, I've been playing with them since I was a kid. You know those like chalky ass palettes you get at like art stores that cost like €2? Yeah, I used to have tons and tons of those, because I don't know, like watercolors for me are so beautiful because they behave in a very natural way, and they leave marks and they leave texture, and they just kind of have a mind of their own, actually. And for me, it's just like, it sometimes makes like the best scenarios or the best portraits. So yeah, again, this is a very experimental. I didn't have a set goal in mind. I was just trying to slowly re-immerse myself in the experience of watercolors. I'm also trying to invest a little more in my watercolor technique, even though I think I'm pretty solid at it. But lately, like for the past 2 years, I've been more focused on digital art because of its convenience. There's just something about like being able to have like a reference picture next to what you're drawing, or like go back and erase and transform. Like, I don't know, like, and then if you don't like the colors, you can add it. You don't have to like redo the whole thing. You can just re-add it. So I kind of grew accustomed to that, but also because I really wanted to get better at digital art. I feel like my paintings, like I can never nail skin tones right, you know what I mean? And sometimes the texture is like too airbrushed, or it has too much texture, and it's just a struggle, honestly. But watercolors is like very chill. It's like I'm never like really worried about like, I don't know, like it's like I trust the process, you know, with watercolors at least. Like I've learned to trust the process, and I'm not as controlling when like it flows somewhere or I think it looks weird, because I know that I can change it, or it's just like part of the plan. It's like happy mistakes, you know? So I kind of just let it happen, and then at the end I just like see what the fuck is going on. So yeah, you can see right here that I'm using square brushes and leaving like squarish marks. And for me, this was like an interesting approach, because it really helped to define the shadow areas and the light areas. And I think that with the square brush, you really get that like artistic feel. I don't know. But to me, it was very interesting to paint with the square brush. Normally, I would stick around with the normal round brush and fine tip brushes, but I don't know, something called, I don't know, I felt like I should use these. And I actually really like the textures and the dimension it brought to the painting as a whole. So yeah, you can see that my watercolor process is very easy. I really like starting with small like layers and like glazing colors on top of each other, and just slowly building up the colors. And then you can just start adding more details as you go. I try not to get lost in a certain spot. I try to paint the painting as a whole instead of like sections, you know what I mean? Like just let the colors like merge into one another, and then you can like fix it later, or like use it to your advantage. And for me, I really enjoyed like painting in a very like slow, unexpected and unprepared way, if that makes sense, you know, just like dropping colors and experimenting with different colors and letting different colors mix together and see what I get. And to me, I think it's the fun of watercolors, that you can do your best to like relax while you do it. Like it's not a very controlling thing. It doesn't require a lot of attention to detail, I think, or like it doesn't require you to be a perfectionist, which can really hold you back in your art if you're always seeking out imperfections and trying to be perfect. At least that's what I've learned from experience. And yeah, you can see now that I'm using a small pen to define certain places of her face that need more contrast, and that I just didn't want to do with watercolors, because I knew that if I did, they would like fade out. So I just decided, I normally don't use a pen, but I decided that I wanted to. I don't know, like it felt like a good idea to use them. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have a lot more to say, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys had fun watching and you learned something. And I'm also going to try and post another watercolor video next weekend, so yeah. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I post shorts every day. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.